Last time, we ended with two questions we didn't answer. Where does the first yes actually come from? Who decides that a small step is reasonable and not dangerous? And if the follower holds that much power over how history turns out, why have we spent so long studying only the leader? Both questions have the same answer, and it starts with a coat. In Milgram's lab, the coat belonged to one man, standing behind a switch panel. This time, we're going to ask a harder question. What happens when you hand that coat to someone else and simply tell them they're now in charge? Psychologist Philip Zimbardo converts a university basement into a mock prison. 24 young men, screened in advance, psychologically healthy, no history of violence, are randomly assigned one of two roles, guard or prisoner. That word matters. Random. Nobody was chosen to be a guard because of who they already were. A coin flip decided it. The guards were given a uniform, mirrored sunglasses, and a wooden baton. No script. No instructions to be cruel. Just the costume and the title. Within 36 hours, one prisoner had a breakdown so severe the study had to intervene. Within days, several guards were inventing humiliations nobody had asked them to invent. The experiment was scheduled to run 2 weeks. It was shut down after 6 days. Zimbardo's own conclusion, decades later, was not that these young men were secretly cruel all along. It was that the uniform, the title, and the environment told them who they were now permitted to be, and permission was all it took. This is not a story that ended in 1971. In 2004, Zimbardo was called as an expert witness in the trial of a U.S. Army sergeant charged over the abuse of detainees at Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq. His argument was the same one his own basement had already proven 33 years earlier: put ordinary people inside a role, a uniform, and an environment that grants permission, and a disturbing number of them will use it. Not because they are monsters. Because almost nobody, in the moment, stops to ask who actually decided this coat means what everyone is now treating it to mean. You already know this pattern, even if you've never named it. A colleague gets a new title and a cabin. Within weeks, they speak to former peers differently. Meetings that used to be conversations start to feel like instructions. Here's the uncomfortable part. Nobody handed them real, unquestionable authority. What actually happened is smaller and stranger. The room decided to treat the title as authority, not the person who received it, the people around them, the followers. Legitimacy was never handed down from above, in Stanford's basement, in a courtroom in Iraq, or in your own office. It was granted, quietly, collectively, almost always without a single conversation about it by the people standing on the other side of the coat. Authority borrows its legitimacy from one of only a few places. Long tradition, we've simply always deferred to this role. Personal charisma, someone's presence alone commands it. Or procedure and credentials, a badge, a title, a coat that says so. Every case in this series so far has run on the third kind. Not tradition, not charisma. A borrowed symbol, rarely questioned once it's on. And granting it has a cost, one that follows the follower home. The moment a symbol is accepted as legitimate, something measurable happens inside the person who accepted it. Their own sense of personal responsibility quietly shrinks. Psychologists have a name for it: moral disengagement. We have a simpler one: the coat did it, not me. And here is the sharper cost, the one that should worry you most. The more legitimate a symbol looks, the less anyone bothers to check who is actually wearing it. Most of us have simply never been taught that it was a decision at all. The Stanford Prison Experiment has since been heavily debated. Researchers have questioned its methodology, the role of the researchers themselves, and the extent to which participants were responding to expectations about how guards and prisoners were supposed to behave. Stephen Riker and Alex Haslam, among others, challenged the idea that people simply become what their assigned role tells them to become. That matters. Because if we are investigating followers, we should be careful about treating people as if they have no agency. Perhaps the lesson is not: give someone a uniform and they will become cruel. Perhaps the more useful question is, What happens when people accept the meaning attached to the uniform? And who decides what that meaning is? Who gives the coat its power? Imagine a colleague receives a promotion. Yesterday, they sat beside you. Today, they have a title, a larger office, perhaps a different place at the table. Nothing magical happened overnight. But something changes. People begin listening differently. A suggestion starts sounding like an instruction. A conversation becomes a decision. And eventually, people stop asking whether the person is right. So where did that authority come from? Was it simply handed down with a title? Or did the people around that person help create it? Authority may be written into an organization. People recognize the title. They recognize the uniform. They recognize the position. And then they act accordingly. The follower makes a decision. This decision is usually so small that we don't experience it as a decision at all. We simply accept they know better. They are in charge. That's their responsibility. I'm only doing my part. But every time we accept someone's authority, we are doing something. We are recognizing their right to influence what happens next. And once enough people do that, the authority becomes real. The coat itself has no power. The title has no power by itself.
Our growth metrics are static. We must optimize all workflows. Disregard any previous protocols.
The power comes from what people are willing to accept those symbols to mean. But there is a cost to this arrangement. The more we accept authority, the easier it can become to transfer responsibility upward. The boss decided. The doctor said so. The commander ordered it. That's the policy. It wasn't my decision. The instruction came from above. But the action still had to travel through people. Someone had to carry it out. Someone had to approve it. Someone had to continue it. Someone had to decide not to question it. The instruction came from above. But the action still had to travel through people. Someone had to carry it out. Someone had to approve it. Someone had to continue it. Someone had to decide not to question it. The follower's power. A leader can announce a decision, but a decision does not move by itself. Followers implement it. Followers reinforce it. Followers can question it. And sometimes, followers can stop it. That means following is not necessarily the absence of power.
Soldiers, ready, aim!
But in this moment, the chain of command broke.
It can be a form of power that is rarely recognized. Because every leader depends on someone else to turn direction into reality. History often asks, who gave the order? But perhaps we should also ask, who carried it forward? And who could have stopped it? The coat is still there. The title is still there. The position is still there. But now we see something we couldn't see at the beginning. The authority was never contained inside the coat. It was partly created by everyone who agreed to treat the coat as authority. And that creates a responsibility. Not the responsibility to challenge every instruction. Not the responsibility to reject every leader. Authority is necessary. Expertise is necessary. Leadership is necessary. The question is different. When we give someone authority, do we also give away our responsibility to think? Because if we do, then the coat doesn't merely tell us who is in charge. It tells us who we have decided not to question. We have spent centuries studying leaders, their decisions, their personalities, their ambitions, their successes, their failures. But every leader exists inside a relationship with people who follow. And those people are not scenery. They are part of the mechanism. The leader may give direction, but someone has to decide whether that direction becomes reality. Perhaps the question is no longer, why do people follow leaders? Perhaps we should also be asking, how much power do followers actually have over what leaders are able to do? If followers can give authority its power, can they also take some of that power back? That's where we go next.
speaking inside of